All right, students. So this is the beginning of week 2. And before we actually start the history of jazz, we're going to get into some various things that will help us understand the music that we're listening to, including aspects of jazz, instruments, and song form. So really quick, um, what separates jazz from all other kinds of music is it's built on these two main aspects. This aspect of improvisation, the idea that the musicians are creating on the spot, spontaneous musical invention, basically playing something unpracticed. It's just kind of straight from your soul, if you will. Second thing is swing feel, a rhythmic feel that is difficult to notate. Before jazz came onto the scene, this particular rhythmic feel that we call swing did not exist in any kind of music. It took jazz to bring this swing feel into the world. And since that swing feel was introduced, it's found its way into many, many other kinds of music. So jazz is very important. That has the improvisation and swing feel. Some other kinds of music have improvisation. Things like rock and roll. A guitarist might take a little improvised rock solo. You'll find things like that. Back in the day, Mozart and Bach and Beethoven improvised. But jazz was built on improvisation. It was born out of musicians improvising and making things up right there on the spot. And it's never the same way twice. Now, you're going to be introduced to some instruments. These might be some instruments that you might not recognize the names of or what they go with. So this is why we do this. So we say jazz instruments break off into what are called the front line and the rhythm section. In the front line, these are instruments that would be, playing on top of the rhythm section. Instruments like the trumpet, instruments like the saxophone, and there's many different kinds of saxophones. They got an alto and tenor saxophone in this picture. Tenor saxophone is on the left, alto saxophone is on the right. You can see the alto is a little bit smaller than the tenor. You have these other kinds of saxophones, a soprano saxophone and a baritone saxophone. Baritone's pretty big. The soprano saxophone, a lot of people sometimes think it's a gold clarinet. No, that is a soprano saxophone. There's a clarinet, okay? And the trombone is an instrument that could also play a melody on top of the rhythm section. In a front line, you might see one or more of these instruments together, maybe harmonizing with each other, maybe playing the same melodic line, but all over the rhythm section. Now, when we get to the rhythm section in jazz, the rhythm section is the foundation. You got to have the rhythm section, and the front line instruments sit on top of that rhythm section. So the rhythm section provides all aspects of rhythm. A chord changes moving, a tempo, the time, a rhythmic drive. So what we got in the jazz rhythm section, we have the piano. The pianist is responsible for the chords and the harmonic structure that the jazz musicians use to improvise on. We have drums. The drums are responsible for the time keeping and keeping that forward momentum and drive. And the bass. We can have an upright bass, the acoustic bass is on the left, and an electric bass. Okay, they both do two things. They, one, help provide what is the harmony moving to, and they are also the bottom of the foundation, and they help move the music forward. Guitar is like the piano. It just plays the chords and gives a harmonic foundation. And congas can be added for some extra rhythmic, if anything, rhythmic spice to especially Latin-inspired jazz pieces. Now, when you listen to a jazz improviser just making things up on the top of his head, they are very skilled. And these are some things that a jazz improviser needs. A jazz improviser needs a near effortless command of the instrument. They really are trained on their instrument and they know that instrument well. 2, the jazz musician has a thorough knowledge of music theory and harmony. Nobody is ever just flying blind. They're absolutely aware of how chords work, how they move, and especially really advanced chords. Number 3, they have a great ear for pitch and rhythm. Jazz musicians talk to each other. A pianist hears a saxophone player do something. He might immediately answer with something he plays. A drummer hears a particular rhythm and he picks up on the rhythm. So they got big, big ears. And number 4, ability to memorize hundreds of tunes and chord progressions. Again, most jazz musicians, when they play, there is no music. They're just on stage playing for hours with no music in front of them. Now, when you're listening to jazz, it can often be difficult to listen to, especially if there's a lot of improvisation going on. What'll help as you're listening to jazz is, one, if you can be aware of the original melody, that's going to help you keep track as an improviser creates his own stuff, chorus after chorus after chorus, or saxophone plays and trumpet plays, if pianist plays. If you always got that underlying awareness of the original melody, you can help follow along. You can recognize chord progressions. You can kind of feel, I hear chords moving in this way. I hear the chord move that way. You don't have to know what they're moving to, but you recognize that they're moving. And to be aware of song forms. That's probably the most important. In fact, your discussion this week is song forms. And I have some extra videos up about video assignments on song forms. So song forms is every song has a structure. And when jazz musicians are playing and there's a certain song is to be played, if you know the structure, that's going to help you improvise. If you know the structure and you recognize the structure, it's going to help you listen. So these are the main song forms that jazz musicians use, the main ones. The simplest form is something called the 12-bar blues. Now, I have a little bit of this demonstration in my video, but it's very simple. It's only 12 bars, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, and we count to 12. And then a chorus repeats and repeats. So if a jazz group was improvising on a 12-bar blues, a trumpet player might play a couple of choruses of 12 bars. A saxophone player might then play a couple of choruses of 12 bars. The pianist might play a couple of choruses of 12 bars, etc., etc. But each person is playing one chorus. Each chorus is 12 bars, and it's very simple. The most basic blues only has 3 chords, but of course there can be variations on the chords. Sometimes they can put more in, but it's still focused on the 3 chords. Another song form is what we call the AABA. It's usually 32 bars. Remember, a blues chorus is 12 bars. Well, this is 32 bars. And what we'll hear with the A section, you'll hear a main theme, which is 8 bars. Then you hear that main theme repeated, which is another 8 bars. Then we have what's called a bridge. That's the B section. It's something different, something contrasting. That's 8 bars. And then we return to our A section, 8 bars. And a lot of jazz tunes have that, and a lot of jazz musicians know that when they're playing a tune like that, they can use references like, let's come in at the bridge. And everybody knows what that means. So that's a very popular song form to improvise on. And if you're a listener and you're aware that you're listening to a song with a bridge, it helps you keep track as improvisers go chorus after chorus after chorus. And the final song form is a standard 32 bar, but there is no bridge to this. Basically, what you get on this is you get 16 bars, and then you almost have a mirror image of the same 16 bars. So in this song form, there is no bridge. Now on the video that I give a little example of that, and I think you'll hear the 3 back to back with me on the keyboard. So I hope you all have a great week studying this, and we'll see you later.